Hello, and welcome to Navigating to Success. I'm Jeff Carlton, certified focal point business and executive coach. And today I'm joined by Chris Marcus. I'm pretty excited about this episode. Chris, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so Chris is the CEO and co-founder of a really exciting company. It's got some really great content, Colormatics. Did I say that right?
Yep, Colormatics. Yep, you got it right.
Okay, so before I mess something else up, I'm going to turn it over to you, Chris, and I'm going to let you tell us about Colormatics and tell us what you do.
Cool. Well, right now we call ourselves more of a visual agency. We do help come with clients that have problems. They want to grow their business. They want to have fast growth. They want to reach a new audience. We help develop a plan, strategy, kind of assess where they're at, bring a lot of factors for that. And then usually we'll develop commercials and content to help advertise and create advertising campaigns around that to really reach new audiences and really grow that. We help on the media side as well. We're replacing the media and really being able to track everything from start to finish. Um, that's our main focus. Really, we don't really do like websites and branding, all that kind of stuff. It's really the company's pretty like a company that comes to us with a brand guideline or something well established, and they're like, we need something fast, we need to fix something, we need to reach some people. We don't need a big eight monster agency, but we need something that's really high quality. We're a good fit for that.
So it's kind of lean and efficient, um, as opposed to the big all-encompassing. I've got a problem and I need a quick solution.
Yeah, it's definitely we've really taken the agency model and tried to be a little bit different. Some of our areas we've seen the typical agency, like you have a big, say you have a big agency that comes with the creative, and then they're gonna go out and find a production company, and they'll find a director, and then you bring them together, and they might piece all these things together. You might get a really, as a company, you get a lot of good options from top-notch directors and top-notch production companies. What happens is you just lose a lot of efficiency in that. There's a lot of costs. You're paying a lot of money out of pocket for those services. And so we've said, like, why don't we have everything in house? We'll have directors in house. We'll have cinematographers. We'll have writers. We'll have creative people. We'll have people on post production side, and we'll be able to run and do it all together and make it really efficient. And so we've been able to do things that we've gone up to the big monster agencies, and like we've competed against them, and we're usually like a fifth the price, maybe a fourth the price, and it's pretty impressive what we can do in this. And there's trade-offs for sure. I mean, if you're a big company and you want to have anything at your disposal and any director at your disposal, we're not the company for you. But we definitely found, I think, a sweet spot that we're trying to hit up, and I think it's been working well, especially for this kind of climate and where everyone's at with being smart with their budgets and trying to be aware of what they're doing and trying to maximize their dollar as much as possible. But we're really there to help them out.
I'm going to come back to what you said about the sweet spot, but one thing about being in-house, I think I saw a post that you had a couple days ago. You got to direct a commercial with your son in it.
Yeah, my son. Yeah, yeah, it was a fun day. We've actually my son is 7 and my daughter's 10. I got to do a commercial with my daughter when she was about 4 years old. Super fun. My son, he's 7 and just a ham, and we had this commercial. I was like, he'd actually be perfect for it. So he came out. We did a bunch of rehearsals. He only had a few lines, so it wasn't too hard for him, but just acting like a kid. And but it was just fun to bring him out on set. He came the whole entire day. Saw the craft services and like eating snacks and like this is Hollywood. He's just super excited, and it was just fun to be able to bond with him. And then we had the location at a swimming pool that we weren't using. It was just a background. He's like, "Can I go swimming?" I'm like, "You know what? Let's go for it. Like this is your day. Like you're a movie star." He jumped in with his clothes on. Like we dried him off and stuff. It was pretty fun. But and then it's cool too because in his room, like I did a picture. I framed a picture of him. He has like this bee costume, bee catching costume on. Um, and it's just hilarious looking. So he likes seeing that, likes seeing himself, and it was fun doing it as a dad.
Well, I don't have to. pull the thread of how you keep a work-life balance because that's a fantastic story, and I love the way your eyes lit up as you were telling. That's super cool. That you can't,
Yes,
you don't want to take your work home, but you can always take your home to work sometimes, and it's rewarding.
totally.
So back to Colormatics. How big are you? You say everything's in-house, but how big? How many employees? How much space? What do you look like?
So space wise, we started in New York City. That's where I was at when we first started. And then I'm from Washington, Spokane, Washington originally. So I have a business partner in New York, and we had a small office there, just like kind of more co-working space. And I wanted to get back to family. We started with kids in New York, and it's just like we want to be near family and stop doing vacations to Spokane and do vacations somewhere else fun. Um, so we set up shop here in Spokane, and then from there started doing kind of like little micro locations where we have a little spot in Seattle and one in LA. We have a little one in Austin now. But Spokane's really like the main hub where we have a lot of our employees and like a lot of our production, post production happens here. A lot of our gear stored here. Um, we actually have a spot in downtown Spokane, which we found an old building that we end up gutting and renovating and turning into our entire space. So on staff, we have about 12 people full time, and then um, we on bigger productions we'll have up to 200 to 300 people. On smaller productions, we might bring in an extra 10 or 20. But we try to do outside those bigger productions, we try to do everything in house, and all the key roles are really with Colormatics. So we try to be smart with that. And then we just use a lot of freelancers as well to really kind of expand the team and grow. One thing with an agency, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit, is when things you get a big client, that client goes away, how do you adapt? How do you ebb and flow with that world and not be the agency that just lays
As
everybody off,
you
which we have
explode and then try not to implode, right?
exactly. Yeah. So right now we just went through a time of like we lost a client that became 95% of our business. And we did unfortunately had to lay people off, but we are at a place now. It's like, okay, how do we stay at a good solid level and then kind of grow when we need to grow, and then what are some really smart hires that we can do as we grow, but not just hire just when we need to, but like be really smart about it. So we're definitely on a journey
So
with that. But
it's almost and that's an interesting one because that really speaks to a lot of the other businesses out there, especially in the northern tier of the Rocky Mountains and Plains, is seasonal business. Um, you have the same thing, although it's not nature seasons for you, it's big client and that challenge of upsizing and then downsizing and being able to do it gracefully without having negative
mm,
impact on people that are on your team. So yeah, I appreciate that. That is indeed a challenge. So let's go back to where you said you found the sweet spot for your business. How did you come to the conclusion of what your niche or your sweet spot was going to be within this industry, which can be a monster?
yeah, I think we're still. I mean, one of the things with finding your sweet spot, I feel like it's always evolving, and I think as you get to like, you're like, this is a great spot, and you get there, you start living in it, and you start saying, oh man, this could really be fine tuned even more. Like we need to be more unique, and I think we're still, you know, as we've grown, like we started more as a production company. That was really my background, feature films, I was direct photography, post production. Um, so we really kind of led with that, and then my other business partner, Sean in New York, was a really good writer, really good producer. We started adding that on, and I think we just started adapting and just being like, man, we would be hired by a big agency in New York, and they would have like 6 or 7 people sitting around doing nothing, and you're just like, this is so frustrating because like they're hammering us on budget, and yet I know what these guys are making per hour. This is, and then you'd have a status update. We don't use it that much, but one of our things we talk about is like our status updates are, just the people that need to be there. Cause like I've been on Zoom calls with, 20 or 30 people on an agency side. And I'm like, this is a $20,000 meeting, $30,000 meeting. I mean, it's like the amount of resources that are being sucked in. And so we just started seeing things that we didn't really like. and try to adapt to that. And so like our sweet spot now is seeing like we really found when we had an idea of saying like we could be in-house, be lean, go against the grain a little bit on this. Um, and we really started seeing it come to play when we started competing with some really big agencies and winning some of the bids with that. And that really was because we were really scrappy. We were very nimble. We were able to do a team that was super cohesive in a budget range that was like really competitive. But then we did a bunch of national commercials from that, and you know, worked with like a bunch of celebrities, and like it was a very, I mean, it was very cool to see like this idea we had was actually working. Now it's like, okay, how do we replicate that more? How do we keep on doing that for other clients?
Right.
And like so we're at a spot where like we kind of know who we are, but we need to fine tune it even more. And it's like we have to dial it in even more and really say like how do we become even more unique and really build that moat around us so it's not anybody can just come in and do it. And um, I think we're still constantly figuring that out, but I think that's kind of where we're at right now.
I, yeah, I think that's a very um, a common thing is, you know, who are those clients? So do you have ideal clients or, I mean, do you work with small business for local television commercials up to feature film, large scale clientele? What space are you not in? Maybe that's easier.
So like, I mean, we definitely have like a minimum that we have to hit, like on a first project or kind of like a yearly budget with a client. But we do a lot of work locally in different areas we're in. We do a lot of stuff that maybe a business that you might just see in that location. We do work regionally, so you might see something in like a state or a couple different states, and then we do things nationally as well. And I think the national ones have been more they've kind of fallen in a niche of like we need some like fast growth. Like we're on a fast growth trajectory, and we have our like our maybe our big agency, but we need someone to come in and be kind of like that squad that's going to kind of solve some problems, make some stuff happen. But maybe they're not going to be that long-term partner that they might have for the big agency. That's how we kind of fill that role in those larger clients. Or we might just do a couple one-off, or like a bunch of little videos for them that are not what a big agency would never touch. For a local company, we'll be able to do, kind of the full thing of being their agency of record and really kind of helping them grow and really be a part of their business objectives, so their sales, their marketing, really seeing kind of holistically how do we help solve problems with them. So we might do things beyond commercials in advertising, but we try to be very open and smart with the people that we work with and say everyone's budget is different and everyone's needs are different. And the value we can bring to a company that's a $40 billion company is a lot different than the value that we can bring in a company that makes 10 million a year. Um, so, we try to be really smart and be open to that. And I think as a business owner too, like I've been pitched and sold so many things too as well that it's like, okay, these things that I don't like, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that company. And I want someone to adapt and like say like, hey, I understand you guys have, 12 people on staff. Like I'm not going to pitch you a solution that would need 50 people on staff to make this work. I think it's being smart with that.
No, so real quick, what do you have any platforms? Are you primarily television, social media? What do you platform or do you not care? It can go anywhere.
I mean, we try to be smart of where like we take. Well, I mean, our big thing is we take the funds that are available. Say like we want to spend X amount per month. We want to reach these kind of people in this audience. Our objective is to like sell this product, sell this service to make people more aware. Whatever those objectives are, and we say, okay, we go through and say we recommend these are the best channels to use in that, and this is the best way to reach that with these funds. We're not big on like we're always just like one channel is our go-to. I think it's a combination, and each channel does things a lot differently, and like there's a lot of different reasons to use those channels. Um, I think it's just being smart with how do you fund those properly, how do you manage those properly, and then how do they all tie together and communicate really well. Because like we ran this pretty large campaign, and at the end everything was performing well, but we didn't have a lot of things that tied into their point of where things were being sold. and it was hard to really prove our ROAS with them. And I think we've done a lot of things now to really come back and say like, all right, we're going to make sure everything is tracked, that we're doing all this awesome stuff, but like at the end of the day, if it doesn't meet your objectives, it doesn't matter, And it could be like, yeah, we feel good about this. We've got the clicks, we've got the impressions, we've seen some sales increase, but we want to see these hard numbers. So I think it's having all those platforms speak together, be communicating, and being able to track it really well, I think is key.
Yeah, it's something that I try and impress on clients as well. Is that analytics, KPIs, key performance indicators, folks? Those matter because your key performance indicators affect your key result areas, which is your profit and loss statement,
Mhm.
which is pretty important. So as we kind of get towards the end, what does Colormatics look like? You're fairly lean right now. You'd say 12 or 17 full time.
12, yeah, 12 full time.
Well, so what do you look like in 12 or 36 months?
I mean, I think if anything, there's a couple areas we're really honing in on. We're developing a lot of stuff to target a certain kind of market that we're going to be going after. So we're really developing that. So I think that's going to be a lot of growth in that area. And I think too, it's just kind of our approach right now, I think has been working in a sense of getting new business. I think it's kind of amplifying that a little bit more. So it's really for us, I think it's a real positive growth. I think it's going to be a slower growth than we had a couple of years ago. But I think it's just more, it's getting really good clients that are really, they're retainer based, they're consistent. We're building really good relationships. We're really diving into the relationship aspect of our company, of our clients, which we've kind of done some in the past, but not everybody. I think we're spending a lot of time, texting, emailing, calling, hanging out with them as much as possible. And really, I think it's at the end of the day, it's really, you have to develop those relationships. People have to trust you. And that's where a lot of those conversations happen. And I think, for us, it's really seeing some good positive growth. I think it's really formulating even more and changing some of how we market, how we pitch. I think that's adapting and getting a lot better. And I think it's the next 36 months I think it's going to be super honed in even more. And I think, just some good steady growth.
Well, in fact, that you said the word relationships multiple times in there. I don't know how many times. I just wrote it in a post today about the importance of relationships and that your clientele has to know that you care, or or you're just another guy selling a cup of coffee, right? It's
Yep,
important.
totally.
So, parting shot. Um, what's one hard lesson or one piece of advice you would give to an aspiring entrepreneur that wanted to start their own company or struggling in their first couple of years?
Mhm. I think a lot of things. I think wanting to start. I could break it up a little bit. Sorry, there's a little echo in here. Wanting to start a company. I think it's my mode is always uh, just start moving. I One of my friends would always say it's easier to turn a car that's moving than a car that's parked. Um, so I think there's something in that movement and that progression. But I think looking back on it now, I think having a simple plan that you can kind of say like every day I'm going to be doing these steps to get to my goal is a big one. To really launching your business, and I think it's really every day you're doing stuff that really builds to something, and you're trying to do something that matters to your business. And as you're in it, a lot of times you kind of get really focused on the service you sell or the product you sell, and you really lose. You just don't have a perspective on the business and like developing that out. And I think the more time you can spend kind of planning on the business, thinking about the business, saying like, okay, where are we going to be at? How are we unique? How are we different? Is there a lot of competition around us? How do we stand out? Really going through that and knowing that I think is really key. And especially for a business that maybe is struggling, I think it's spending the time saying, what are we doing right now that's working really well? Let's focus on that. Let's weed out some stuff that's not. And, sometimes that's hard, but I think it's also spending that time of just digging in, saying, who are we? And what can we do differently? What's a problem we're actually solving that people need? And I think sometimes it's easy just to get in business and and you're like, I'm just going to do the service in this, and not really understand fully the depth of the problem you're solving or how to communicate that. I think that's really key. Starting out, and if you've already been in a few years and you're struggling, I think it's key to really spend time on the business on that.
Yeah, that's a great way to wrap this up. That you're solving a problem that the client needs solved. You're providing
Mm-hmm.
a solution, not just a widget. You're not just selling a cup of coffee. You're selling them some satisfaction and some peace of mind. That's
Totally.
great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Chris, for joining me for this episode. And
Yeah.
for everybody
Great
watching,
questions.
I appreciate you joining us. Any parting shots or closing remarks, Chris?
No, I mean, it's been great being on, and I think, I'm thinking about people that are wanting to start a business, and I think, part of it's just, if that's your desire, I think go for it. I think it's just, I've been a business owner now for probably 22 years. And it's exhilarating when when you're growing, it's stressful when you're shrinking, but there's just something about it that's just exciting. And it's cool to be, kind of the master of your domain.
There you go. That's the war cry of the week, folks. Go for it, but be smart and track your numbers. All right.
Definitely.